down in the den. So go tell a friend. The best podcast on earth's about to begin. We got jokes and news and movie reviews. After Dark NC-17 with the crew. Interviews with the best artists around. So like, comment, subscribe. The show's starting right now. Let's go. Like, comment, subscribe. The show's starting right now. Welcome to the season 2 debut of Down in the Den After Dark. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you, but I am back and I am joined with some great friends with me for this episode. We're going to be doing it a little bit different season 2. The regular crew will be back and they will be featured throughout the season, but we're also going to give you more of what you want, more open and raw conversation, more honesty, even more fun and more dialogue and more guests. So without further delay, I want to introduce you to our awesome panel that's going to be joining us on this open dialogue. We're going to be talking about sex. We're going to be talking about relationships. We're going to be talking about ideas of masculinity, sexuality. Everything's on the table. From the Cameron Journal Podcast, welcome to the Den. Writer, host, political mastermind, Cameron Cowan, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, brother?
Doing very well, thank you. That's quite an intro. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also joining from me, the Queen Mother herself from the MamyLyfe Podcast. She's a podcaster. She's hilarious. She does the tops of the tick that all the young kids are doing. I'm slowly learning how to tick my tops, but I haven't really figured it out. She's a mother of 3, if I'm not mistaken.
3 boys.
3 boys from the MamyLyfe Podcast. Welcome, the Queen Mother. Rose, how are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm good.
Awesome. And we have some other friends that hopefully will be joining us a little bit later in the conversation. We know how the Zoom world works, so they'll be coming as soon as they possibly can. But my man, Dom from the Tru Playaz Podcast should be on a little bit later. So, guys, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I'm stoked to have you guys off. But first of all, I wanted to start off this conversation at a subject that sometimes has a sore spot for a lot of men out there. Is the concept of masculinity. We get the terms toxic masculinity, regular masculinity. What does that even mean? We're in a generation where gender is now discussed in different terms than we've ever had, and it's been a lot of trigger points for someone. So I'd like to start with the lady first, because I'm a gentleman, and that's not being toxic or at all. But as a gentleman, I'd like to start with the lady. What is your concept of masculinity when it comes to you? What do you see as your vision of masculinity?
I see a guy that's not afraid to express himself, because nowadays guys are afraid to show emotion, like being afraid to cry. So I see a guy that's, that's vulnerable, that's not afraid to express themselves. I know, like, in today's world, it's like, oh my God, like, don't cry. Or for mental health, for an example, like, guys, we don't know that they have like mental health issues because they're like afraid to say something. So I define masculinity as just an expression of self, like a guy that's not afraid to express himself no matter what.
Absolutely. That's a good answer. And I can imagine as a mother of 3 boys, that's something that you really have to be there and cognizant, because I know I grew up, I'm an 80s baby. And, I call it the rub some dirt on a kid generation, where as a boy, you weren't allowed to cry if you hurt yourself, if you fell and bust your knee, suck it up, be a man, rub some dirt on it. Cam, what is your opinion when it comes to masculinity and what's true masculinity? And here comes Dom and everybody, so perfect timing, so we're going to bring them in. But Cam, what's your vision when it comes to masculinity in that term?
Well, we are definitely in, I think, a transition period. We are definitely in a transition period when it comes to our ideas of masculinity. Mostly because, for better or for worse, the world has changed. Especially economically, a lot of the professions that men, particularly non college educated men, could slot themselves into don't exist, and so there's a lot of men who kind of don't know where their spot and their place is in society, and that's not an easy problem to solve, not quickly or anytime soon, I think. Um, that's kind of the like my view of society. At a personal level, as the bi guy, I, you know, I kind of have always had a thing for working class dudes. I used to hook up with a guy who built ships at the port of Seattle, and I thought that was fantastic. Like he would come over and like his like his like welding uniform and all this type of thing. I'm like, let me get these dirty clothes off of you. Like I think so I think it's because I grew up with an aunt whose husband works in an oil refinery. So my young sexuality was influenced by these ideas, but um yeah, it's not to the denigration of anybody that works in healthcare or anything else. I just have always, enjoyed, a guy who does some sort of like weird technical sort of working class kind of skill. So it's a weird thing, but we're definitely in a transition. The definitions have changed. The place in society for men has changed, and it's really tough to be a young man right now. It wasn't easy, 10 years ago when I was in my early 20s, and it's harder now. And I think a lot of young guys they're just not quite sure what to do with themselves. And that's leading to apathy, a lot of anger, and a lot of inaction.
Wow, well said, well said. And welcome, guys. My man Dom, I told you he would be here in a few moments. I wanted to make sure I give him his proper flowers and give him his proper introduction. Dom, we were talking about our ideas of masculinity, but from the Tru Playaz Podcast, this man does sports. He does controversial talk. He does fun talk. He's one of my favorite podcasters from the Tru Playaz Podcast. My man Dom, welcome to Down in the Den After Dark, where everything's unfiltered, completely raw, and straight from the horse's mouth. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well, Sean. How's everything with you? And hello, everyone on this? I'm blessed to be on this podcast with you, Down in the Den After Dark. Been waiting for a long time to join you guys on the platform.
Yes, sir. And I'm so happy to announce his partner in crime coming in as soon as this links up. His man Joey G. We did an episode, a spicy episode of their show where we were talking about our ideas of child support. And I had a couple of aunts that did not like me after that episode, but they looked at it anyway. So that's all that matters. But Joey G, he'll be here in just a moment. So when he comes, we'll, of course, give him his flowers. But Dom, we were just talking about Rose. She's from the MamyLyfe podcast. My man Cameron, he's from the Cameron Journals. Salute to everybody. And there's some of my favorite podcasters like yourselves. And there's my man Joey G. Joey, how you doing today, brother?
What's going on?
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for joining me. As I was mentioning, I was on their show and we had a great time just chopping it up, talking about child support, talking about all types of cool shit. So it was a blast. It was a blast, man. I'm so gracious that everyone could carve some time out and have this chat with me on After Dark. So,
great to be here.
Fellas, we were talking about masculinity. We were talking about the idea of being masculine, how it's changed in the last, I guess, 15 to 20 years, at least in my generation. So, Dom, I wanted you to have your net state. What is your idea of masculinity in 2021?
2021. Wow. What can I say about it? It's not what I was raised to be. What I see right now. I came from. My pops was a strong, old school Haitian dude. So he felt you're a man, you're a man. You're a girl, you're a woman, you're a woman. It's real simple. It's just not my what I see the guys doing with the tight pants and all that stuff and wearing heels and wearing skirts and stuff. I'm not down with that. I'm more traditional. I'm a traditional guy. Um, Regular size pants. You rock a suit, rock a shirt. You know what I'm saying? Wear, be well dressed and be a man. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter about sexuality. It's just you being a man being a man, and a woman being a woman. In my opinion.
Joey, what's your take? What's your take on masculinity in 2021? Does it exist? Is it? We always hear the term toxic masculinity, which I don't know. I'm not a psychotherapist. I don't know how new that term, but we hear it a lot about
Right.
what a lot of us were taught or bred what was true masculinity
Right.
growing up. What's your take on that in 2021? How do you feel it's changed probably in this last generation?
Coming from the background, kind of like Dom did, where you have a strong father figure in your life, and their definition of masculinity is the hardcore. You're going to be a guy, you're going to wear the suits, you're going to wear the ties and all of that, and you're walking that line. As we get past a certain decade, things start to shift, and it's more about being comfortable in your skin, and it teeters on the line of femininity to various degrees. Now, whether it's right or wrong, that's not for me to decide. It's all about comfortability. But it's what I've seen in the past, 20 years? 20 years or so.
Yeah.
There's been a big change from what I was raised from, where there were basically people doing that behind the scenes, or there was areas like Manhattan, where they would be particular areas where that was deemed okay. Now, from that era till now, it seems like it's everywhere. Everybody's comfortable doing when and wherever they want to. It's a totally big change. From being raised in that environment where there's a strong figure in your life to keep you one way, to a point where you now are the father, and you have to decide how to bring up your child and be sensitive to what is new and still teach what is old.
That's a hell of a that's a hell of a word. That's a hell of a word. Now, for me, I would say I'm somewhere in between, because when my beard was down here, I used to go by Marlon Bearded Weirdo, man. I'm peace, love, unity, respect. I'm a big hippie. You'll catch me out there with my feet out in the dirt, maybe with some party favors. That's just me, So I was raised father in the home, mother in the home, very traditional. But one thing I was missing growing up was religion. I didn't have to go to church. The only my mom, like, I remember, Mom, sorry, please don't disinvite me. But I remember my mom, having a little bump, maybe having a little reefer. I didn't know what reefer was, but I knew that it smelled like potpourri whenever my uncle would drink over. And I knew that I couldn't touch those brownies, when normally the brownies were up for grabs as I got older. So my parents were out there partying. My mom had me at 27, and my dad was 30. So they were much younger than I am now. And then she had my brother at 17, and my dad was 20. So they were still partying when I was very little. And then it wasn't till probably the 90s where my mom got religious, got saved, started going to church. Well, by that time, I was like 10 years old. I was a heathen. I'm like, I'm not going to no church. What the hell are you talking about? No, I'm out here in these streets. So for me, it was very easy for me to get in touch with my feminine side, to have no problem with anyone in the community. And I don't think masculinity and having anyone on the spectrum is necessarily a mesh. It's not saying they're one or the other. But I was also raised to, hey, if you need to cry.
Right.
If you need to tell someone something, tell someone something. If you didn't have to suck it up. It wasn't until I got in the outside world where my friends that may have not had the father figure that had to be made the father at a young age, where I realized, oh, I'm raised different. My views are different. You know, I had friends from all the communities in high school, which I went to high school in the 90s. So having a gay friend in the 90s was like, oh, are you gay? I'm like, no, they're
Right.
They don't think I'm attractive. I would be flattered if anybody felt me attractive. High school me is not anything anyone wants to look at. So my views are different. I think it's actually better. It's more difficult to be the traditional masculine. Like, I don't see, my parents had a house at 25, and I know people that are like in their 40s buying their first house. Like, my parents are married at 20, and I have friends that are in their 40s that have never been married. So those traditional, but I think that has a lot to do with economics. I don't know. What say you guys? Who wants to take a stab on that?
I think economics has everything to do with that. Considering that, you know, back then inflation, when the parents was buying houses back in whether the 80s or the 70s, inflation wasn't as much as it is now. And what happens is that the education that, you know, we as people are lacking, where the top 5%ers are getting that education, is always in the race to outpace the inflation. That's why you see certain people of certain ethnic groups or races are above us, because they had the education very young. They knew the game about how to outpace the inflation. And that's an important thing. Economics is big. Economics is big in everything. It's big in your relationship, love and money. It's all intertwined the same thing, because if the finances is suffering your relationship, it's going to affect your relationship no matter what. No matter how much you love each other, it's going to affect it, because it's going to be like, oh, who's going to pay this bill? Now we're behind this bill. What are we going to do for that? You know, it's all about finance is very important, but it's not about having so much money. It's knowing how to manage it properly. And that's the key.
That's the word. Who's married? Is anyone married in here? One,
Me.
two. Okay. So of that, the economic aspect is very interesting to me, because I was married. I was married for 9 years, recently divorced. And so it was an adjustment. I paid probably 90% of the bills in the household, but there was an adjustment, because there were certain things, you know, here, let me get this light bill, let me get this, let me get that, which you don't realize. But then I also found myself, for me, I had a little bit more money because I didn't have to pay for health insurance. I didn't have to buy one meal instead of two. And I was like, hey, I'm getting a little bit more money, it not being in a double double income household. So how do you feel? And Cam, you're the man on this with economics. How do you feel the change of just like how the dollar is really just, it's nothing now? My dad always tells me, my mom used to send me to the grocery store with the dollar, and I would bring home change. Now, mind you, my dad was born in 1950, but just the concept of going anywhere with a dollar and coming home with change, I can't even buy a soda at some soda machine for $1. I'm like, God damn, what the hell is going on? Like, somebody give me something. Somebody give me something.
No, I'm so glad you said what the hell is going on, because that's the title of my first nonfiction book, available on Amazon. A new post-COVID edition coming in 2022. It's not that there's anything wrong with the dollar or the money. It has much more to do with wages. Real wages have not risen since 1977. Which and even even if you adjust for inflation, all this type of thing, wages that only moves it forward to about the mid 90s. So we are trying to live at 2021 prices with $1995. Now, bearing in mind, my stepdad bought a house in a good neighborhood with a 20-minute commute to his job in 1993 for $90,000. My parents are about to retire, and they're going to sell that house for about $450,000. And I guarantee, and my parents don't remodel. My mother hates anything to do with construction or rearranging furniture. So nothing has been done to this house in the intervening 25 years to tack on, $300,000 of value. And so, this has been the problem. So it's not that there's anything wrong with our money or anything like that. wages have not kept up with production. We're producing more than we ever have while getting paid the same, and wages have not even begun to keep up with the cost of living. Now, some of that has to do with the fact, and this is a very unpopular opinion, but people are coming around to it. In the 70s, when women left the home and went to work, we unconsciously effectively doubled the American labor force overnight with no mitigation for that. And so and a lot of those women went into, low wage, minimum skill jobs. And because of the labor force increased like that so quickly, literally in a decade, that had a profound effect on wages and wage growth and all this type of thing. And now we're in a situation where there are more women graduating from college than men, and they're taking, more jobs in a wider variety of fields, all this type of thing. And so there's kind of been this very, odd and different transition, and it even also affects sex and dating, because men tend to date horizontally socioeconomically, or they will date down. A woman can bring not a great job, not a great income to a relationship and still do very well for herself husband-wise. If a man has those things, and that is increasingly the case, good luck getting a match on Tinder. I'm a full-time writer and artist. I can tell you the struggle is real. I live in a town where people work for Amazon and drive Porsches. It's not fun to date in this environment. So, all those things have changed around. I mean, yeah, you can't get a loaf of bread for 35 cents anymore, or all this sort of thing. But the real fundamental problem is that since 1980, and when Ronald Reagan tore apart the reforms of the New Deal, wealth has increasingly flowed to the top and to those who own assets rather than those who derive their wealth from labor, which is a very fancy way of saying the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And the wealthy are hoarding money at the top. And this is also, from a generational cohort perspective, this is been to the disadvantage of the tail end of Gen X and most millennials. Of all wealth in this country, millennials only control 4%, and 2% of that is owned by Mark Zuckerberg himself. So literally one member of our entire generation has 2% of all the money we have. So, when you start having conversations about manhood and masculinity and all this sort of thing, and I used to write for the Good Men Project, and we were having all these conversations about manhood and masculinity, and I was writing about sacred archetypes and all, the kind of the spiritual path of being a man, which I think is very important. The real kind of moral of the story is that, and this is something that it's a tough pill to swallow. Modern men are economically disadvantaged. Now, that's not a narrative we're prepared to talk about in this country. That's not something that people really want to hear. And obviously, it's worse if you're a person of color. But the reality is that men are economically disadvantaged, and particularly non-college educated men are economically disadvantaged. And that's going to have social implications in the future. If you want to find out what happens to societies where you have large masses of unemployed young men, I would invite you to go look at the Middle East, because everything over there is going so well. So this is something where, down the road, we could start to see really nasty social blowback from men being excluded from society and not being properly prepared, not for the economy that we wish we had, but the economy we actually have. And obviously automation and this sort of thing is only going to make that worse. So, I mean, I suppose, if you've managed to build a career and have a job and all that type of thing, I think there's a lot of mixed messages in the environment right now, because while a lot of women say, oh, they want to have, a sensitive man who's vulnerable and all this type of thing, I would have some questions to those women about the men they date. Because I hear what y'all saying, but your behavior does not match your actions. So there's, and I think that's the mixed messages that men are getting. It's like we're having all these conversations about emotional vulnerability and mental health and all this type of thing, but it's very difficult to say that that's going to get you anywhere in a dating or marriage scenario, given the fact that, women, if a man is, reasonably attractive and emotionally unavoidable, ladies form a queue to the left. And I think that's part of the struggle that young men are having nowadays, which I think gets you, when you look at it this way, you see why Jordan Peterson appeals.
So I'd like to hear from the two married people, because Cameron brought up some interesting facts. And, I've given my story of coming from a 2 household income and actually having more disposable income after losing that partner. For you guys, how does that structure affect your relationships? Is it a 50-50? Because I know I see the mom all the time where it says, I'm not living with no man that I got to go 50-50 with. I hear that all the time. And that kind of triggers me a little bit, because I'm like, dude, you live here, bro. Like, what are you talking about? But then that goes back to masculinity. In my actual past relationship, I paid 90% of the bill. So I found myself being the person that I was like, you better pay 50-50. I didn't pay 50-50. So for the two married people, and whoever wants to go first, what's your view on that, and how does it impact your household? I don't want no smoke. I don't want you to get in trouble though. So I don't want to see any bruises on my account.
You know what? I don't really think it's 50-50 per se.
Nope.
Keep it real. We speak truth power here.
For real, like, it's not really 50-50. Like, honestly, the only thing I honestly pay is like the light bill, and my husband takes care of the mortgage and other stuff. But when I was working, like, I still felt like it wasn't 50-50, because he's always like, I got it. So yeah, like, he's an accountant, so he knows how to manage his, money, right? So the money flows, because like every month or so he does like the budget and stuff, which I'm bad at because I like to spend money. So honestly, I don't really think it's really 50-50. Even with other married couples, it's never going to be 50-50. So
Joe?
I agree with it. I agree with what she said. In my household, it's the opposite. My wife is the breadwinner because her job pays more. And even if I was to catch up, she would still be in charge of the money. So, and it's just because she's more financially responsible in that. Like, when it comes to paying things on time and thinking ahead or planning for vacations and things like that, she's more on point when it comes to those things. Me, I'm kind of laxy until it comes to crunch time. Then it's like, I can put my two cents in and we can make this happen. But I'm more of the fourth quarter player, and she's more of the whole game player. Like, you call me at the end of the game when you need me to make some points. We're gonna make the points. Other than that, she's the main when it comes to the finances in the house. I don't have a problem with it. That she keeps up with it, but then again, on the other side of the spectrum, my masculinity is like, I should be the person in charge of these things, or I should be putting the money on the table to have it divvied up. It shouldn't be coming more out of her pocket than my pocket. I feel like I'm always playing catch up when I am working. So any money that I get is gone. So there's no really saving as far as my pockets are concerned. So it's the opposite spectrum as far as what she just said, and that's from my point of view and the way my marriage is right now.
Now, you mentioned, how that can sometimes hinder your masculinity or make you feel some kind of way.
Make me feel that way, yeah.
Make you feel. Now, in my opinion, I think that's the toxic part, because I think a partnership, which ideally in a relationship should be a partnership, and it doesn't necessarily have to be financially. Like, you handle what you handle well.
Right.
If we're a team, we all can't be LeBron. You know what I mean? Somebody got to be J.R. Smith and just, forget to call timeout. Somebody has to be someone, someone has a role on that on that team. So for me, I know coming out of a 9-year, well, really a 15-year relationship, but being married for 9 years, it was interesting. And ours broke down over mental health issues, not necessarily financial, but financials can compound on that when other things are going on, because you're like, hey, I'm paying this and this is not happening and this is not happening. I think that led my area of toxic masculinity was not being able to channel that. So instead of saying, hey, let's go get counseling, let's go, which I do now, I'm pro, but back then, Black man, I didn't go to counseling, I smoked the L and watch the movie, call it a day. That was my outlet. So how do you guys, and Dom, how do you feel? You're also on the single train with me. How do you feel that contributes to relationships now with the balance, with the financials and everything? What's your intake on that?
My intake is, I believe, let me just start with a previous story with my own parents. My mother was a breadwinner. My father was a strategist. So they pretty much cling off each other. My father was a hustler too. So he was like, oh, shoot, she make more money than me. His ego wouldn't let that happen. So he had to go do other hustles. But grand scope of things, as far as the masculine side of it, he had to be the strategist. He had to control where the money was going to be applied to. So I guess in the sense that they has balanced each other off, in a sense, because she was getting more money. I mean, it was that big of a difference, but she brought in the more money. He was a strategist to know how the checkbooks was balanced and the mortgage, all the bills was paid. That was him. That was the mastermind behind that. She just sat back and chilled and worked. That's it. That's the thing too. As a man, in my opinion, that's my humble opinion. He should know how to strategize and handle the money aspect of things, no matter if he's the breadwinner or not. It's not easy, but is good. It makes it even better when you have a partner that's understanding as well. If your partner's understanding and understands that your faults, we're not perfect. The thing is that a lot of people enter relationships and marriages thinking that the other person gotta be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection in a relationship. So you got to find a way to fill it. The thing is, you got to fill each other's holes. That's
why my relationship didn't work out now.
You got to fill each other's holes, because especially when you're in a marriage, it's not about two people; it's about one.
Right.
And we get lost in the aspect because women are, due to the evolution of the woman, she's not the housewife anymore. She is a career. She has a career now. She's an entrepreneur. She's independent. It's all about how you navigate the independent part of your aspect and bring it into a relationship, into a marriage. That's what makes it work. That's what makes the marriage work. And the problem is relationships is always ego always gets in the way. And I feel that, once you get the ego out the way and you could now work with each other, I think anything is possible in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
Absolutely. Agreed. So we have 2 married, 3 single, 1 divorced. Do we feel marriage? Is that an outdated concept? Because I've been looking at Kevin Samuels lately. I didn't really rock with him before, but I've watched a couple of episodes and a little bit more and more and more, and I'm still not 100% with him because a lot of the aspects he talked about are more faith-based, which I don't think they necessarily have an impact on relationships. But some of the women are super unrealistic, or what they expect and what they bring to the table. And I think we all could probably, as you mentioned, ego death is a good thing for everyone. Having your ego kicked and curb stomped can really help you as the development of a person. So what? Does marriage have a place? Who wants to take that? Does it really even have a place besides, a financial situation now? It's really just, okay, you have the rights to, if I die, you can pull the plug on me, or if I go crazy, you can tell me where to go, what loony home I go to. Besides that, is it really a purpose? I feel like the divorce rate is that, like, I'd never thought I'd be divorced, and here I am. So I feel like it's probably, they say it's 50%. I feel like it's much higher than that. And then I think the marriages that are actually happy are probably significantly less than that. Is it an outdated concept? Who wants to take that?
I have so much to say about this. I have a friend in Vegas who, I'm very old fashioned. I grew up evangelical. I was always the whole thing of, like, you get up, you meet somebody, and then you, like, get married. And divorce is the dirty word that you never say. Obviously my views have changed and moderated as I've gotten older. My last relationship ended badly, and thank God we didn't get married, because it would have made it 10 times messier than it already was. And we also had conflicting mental health diagnoses, where, therapists were kind of like, this is not going to work. And then I agreed with them, and that was the end of that. And so, but her and I have had many long conversations about the nature of marriage and relationships and all this type of thing. And I liked how Dominic brought up perfection, because she has this idea, like, if you're a good man and you're going to be with her, there's this whole, like, list and litany of things that you have to do, from housekeeping on up. And if you don't not do any of them, then it automatically means you're disrespectful, and then that's just not going to work. And I'm kind of like, we're talking about humans here. I guarantee you somebody's going to screw it up. Like, that I can promise you. I can't promise much, but I can promise you it's not going to be perfect every single day.
Sure.
Like, that's just the reality of it. And for her, that was not something that she was willing to accept. And I was kind of like, I mean, I don't mean to be all Kevin Samuels about it, but there's a reason you're single at 42. Like, I mean, and I'm not usually that guy, but it's like, this attitude begets, certain outcomes. And I've gone from I want to get married and have lots of kids, to I want to get married but not have kids. And now I'm kind of like, I don't even know if I want to get married anymore. I'm just like devolving, like, because it's just like, and especially, like, I'm 33, I'm dating, I have 4 friends who are either divorced or getting a divorce right now, all kind of in this age range. And I have one friend who 20-year relationship is going, 6-year over here is going, all this sort of thing. And because people like to sit down and tell me everything, which is great when I'm doing a podcast, not great when I'm just on the phone with people. I get, inside track on so many of these relationships, and I'm kind of just really discouraged by the whole thing, and kind of how relationships break down. And so I don't think marriage itself is an outdated institution. Married people are happier, they tend to live longer, they tend to have more money. And our economy is definitely calibrated to have a 2-income household, particularly when it comes to buying a house. All this sort of thing. So, I mean, there are definitely positive benefits to being married. And this is going to piss a lot of people off, but it's also the ideal environment to raise children. Having mom, dad living together in the home, studies have shown children from those types of homes, they make more money, they graduate college at a higher rate, they go on to have more successful relationships themselves. Now, I came from a home where the parents that I grew up with stayed together. My mom and my dad got married when I was 5. Yeah. No, 6. 1994, I was 6. My father and my mother did not stay together. I didn't meet my father for years and years later. A common Black story, but true. and so that, enables you to have the money to send your kids to college and for them to do better and all this type of thing. So I don't think marriage is an outdated institution. I just think all of these mixed messages and all these mixed ideas and all these rather old-fashioned ideas that many women have about relationships is the problem. In terms of, women kind of want to have their cake and eat it too. And that's not going to work. Like, you can't, on the one hand be like, oh, I'm independent and I want everything this way, my way, and all this type of thing, while also wanting a marriage and a man and for him to pay for everything and do for everything, all this type of thing. You can't have it both ways. And there's one kind of canard I keep hearing from like women my age is that they kind of want things both ways. And I'm just like, that's not a thing. And that's not just men and women, that's a human problem. That's just not a thing. Like,
big facts. Rose, what's as a happily married woman, mother of three, you've mentioned that, hey, it's not really a 50-50 environment, but obviously raising three boys is a hell of a job. It's a very important job, a very rough job, also a very rewarding job. So I would never negate the contributions into the household. And I agree with Cam, coming from a household where I had both mother and father, I can look at my own siblings and see the difference. I thought I had grew the Cosby life. And then when I was 17 and I was graduating, my dad said, hey, do you have an extra invitation for your sister? And I was like, oh yeah, I got, who? He was like, yeah, you have a sister. She's 19. She's coming. I'm like, bro. So at 17, I found out I had a sister. And I said, where the hell, when did this happen? I'm trying to do the math in my head. He was like, yeah, well, me and your mom was separated for 8 years. That's how Black families do. They don't actually sign paperwork. They just separate. And he went and had another relationship and had my sister, and they did that, and then he came back, and then they got back together, and I was born. So I found out at 17, oh shit, this is not the Cosby life. There's some demons in this household that I didn't know about. And then as I got older, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of demons. Oh shit, this is hell. This is where the demons live. But I love my parents to death. They're, God bless them. I have both of them. So how's it for you, Rose? For me, that was what I saw, which changed when I got older. And then reality was like, no, you didn't have a perfect family life. Shit was messed up. How's it for you in your house with being married, having three kids, being happy? But do you have those strifes? Do you have those arguments where you feel like you guys are not balanced? You guys are not on the same page? And do you feel that, hey, sometimes this concept of being married is not working for me and I'm just pushing through? Or do you feel like, every moment, yeah, there's challenges, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't take anything back?
I think it has some challenges, but I feel like many women, you have to open the lines to communicate instead of like yelling and trying to battle, because my husband is like a big talker. If we have a problem, we're going to sit down and talk about it. See, that's the difference. I think people get married just so they could say they're married, not because, they love the person, just so they can have that big, fancy wedding and say, oh my God, I'm married now. That's not going to last. I think, standing in with the communication and talking and everything, that's what matters. And to piggyback on what Cameron said, like, I think that, I don't know who said something about a list, like what women expect, but I don't think any women should put that pressure on a man if they themselves can be equally perfect, because I know some women are not that perfect and they expect men to be that perfect in order for that man to marry them. But at the end of the day, like, if you're not bringing anything to the table, why are you asking a man to have some money and to have a car and to have everything before you guys get married anyways? But my answer is, I think the communication, as long as your communication is strong, everything's going to fall in place.
Communication most definitely is key. And you touched on something that is not talked about enough. I feel a lot of people get married for the wedding and not married for the marriage.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Who wants to touch on that?
Before you guys get into that, I have bad news. I actually have to go. I have a class that I have to start teaching in 1 minute. So great conversation. Glad to participate and meet everybody. I will see you guys down in the den next time. Be well. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Have a good one, Conway.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Good luck in the class. Y'all go right ahead.
Cool.
Who was?
Oh, I was saying, what's your opinion, piggybacking off what Rose was saying about the communication aspect in these relationships, and more importantly, women, coming with their lists? Because I hear, I've seen it where I've been, I'm pretty handsome, I would say. Nice car, my own house, was making 6 figures a year and stuff like that. And I had a girl say, "Damn, you would be bad if you was 6 foot." And I was like, "Your mattress is on the floor. your mattress is on the floor. And
right.
You told me I would be a baddie if I was 6 foot. Are you kidding me?" So that was an ego check for me, because I was like, literally, I could buy you if I wanted to, and you're telling me because I'm 5'10", I'm not like 5'3". I got to say, if I was like Prince, I'm 5'10". I'm like average height. And she was like, and it blew me away. And I was like, I'm not even interested to you. You gave me a backhanded compliment. So how do you feel about that, though?
Who wants to go? You want to Joe? You wanted to do it?
I'll let you go first. I'll let you go first. I'm holding my tongue right now. I'm making notes.
Any female comes to me like that, the door is automatically closed on her. She'd only be a one-night stand from there. Only be a one-night stand. I ain't got time for that. I mean, what are we doing here? I've dealt with a situation. I dated a female who had no papers, and I watched how her family, and Joey G could attest to it. I watched how her family tried to, denigrate me, degenerate me at all costs. And I'm here sitting there. I'm like, you have no papers. And to the point that my mother had to step in to help her get her papers, try to help her get her papers. She told me, "Oh, your mother doesn't know about immigration." I said, "Hold up. My mother came from Haiti, and everybody who she sponsored got their visa in 6 months. That was up until her last days, 2018. She was getting people their visas in 6 months because she knew the lingo, she knew the language. And I can tell you, if my mother was an immigration lawyer, she would have been one hell of a lawyer. I'll tell you that much. So that's another issue too with the list, and not just the girl, not just the female, but her family as well. Especially because her family full of women. Bitter women are could be detriment to the girl who may find that man she's looking for. Those bitter women could be detrimental to her relationship with that man. That everything she's looking for is there, but the bitter women will find a way to make him feel low, take away his esteem, and all that stuff. And for the record, if my girl does answer, I'm not single. I have a girlfriend, but let's get that clear before she's kicking my ass.
Not married. Yeah, he's not single. Down in the den. It's not.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
He's happily girlfriend.
Listen. We can say I am not married. We can say that. However, I've been dealing with the girl I'm dealing with right now. Not from her. I deal with her mother, and her mother, at times just questions my manhood. I'm looking at her like, yeah, we went on a trip, and the car engine light came on. Me as a man, I'm not driving that car without no oil. So I'm gonna take whatever oil that's available to put it in the damn engine so we can make it to AC. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got the right. Like, oh, you put the wrong oil in the car. This, that, and the other. I said, you know what? How about just let you drive the car with no oil, blow out the engine, and you spend $3,000 paying for that engine? How about that? You know what I'm saying? So, but another thing too, I want to add to it also. This is something I learned from a webinar that I went to. One of my mentors, Mr. Juan Nunez. We had an event back in February in Valentine's Day called Love and Money, and he mentioned in a relationship something that we have to do. It's like the 4 C's, but I only remember 3 of the 4 C's. But he said one thing when it comes to love and money is do not compare, do not criticize, do not complain. Now, how important is that in a relationship to maintain the sanctity of a relationship, to keep it going to a positive direction? Because the thing is that, a marriage is not a sprint; it's a marathon.
Yeah, no, that's
And what I mean by that is that what I mean by this is that the wedding is great. Mhm. The wedding stage is just a stage. It's not the marriage. It's just the wedding stage.
Mhm.
It doesn't become a marriage to hit that partner road.
Mhm.
How you gonna get through that?
Mm-hmm.
And once you figure out the way, now it becomes a marriage.
Right.
That's what I'm gonna say about that.
Joe.
I was holding my tongue. I was listening to everybody talk about the situation. Cameron, what's the guy's name that just left?
Yep, Cam.
Yeah.
Cam has some valid points. I like what he said. Relationships, basically, when you come into a relationship before you even get married, you shouldn't come to the table with expectations. That's what everybody's problem is. They come to the table with expectations. Stop doing that. We don't even know each other yet. I have to learn you. You have to learn me. Having expectations before we get there, it's like I wanted to see Mortal Kombat. I had all these expectations in my head. When I saw the movie might have been trash. After waiting for so long to watch this movie, now this movie is trash. Now I'm disappointed because this is not the movie I thought of in my head. Now that's people's expectations coming up into a relationship. Now it's frustrating on both ends. It's frustrating because you had this idea in your head. It's not what you pictured. And oh my God, my whole world is crushed because these are not things that I wanted. Okay. The other side of that spectrum, I don't fit any of those characteristics. Why should I sit there and cater to that? Should I cater to that? Should I let go of what I am to meet your needs? There's a conflict of interest there because I'm losing myself appeasing you. I may care for you, I may like you, may feel myself wanting to grow with you, but you're taking away from me. And it's almost like starting over and not knowing the person that I'm standing next to, walking into a relationship. Now, we get into the relationship. Let's say expectations aside, you meet the needs and everything like that. You're willing to work into a marriage. You get into a marriage. That is a commitment. You committed to each other. That is an agreement you made with one another to make things work. Through thick and thin, good and bad, sickness and health, all of that. That's the commitment you made. You said your words when you said your vows. That's what you said. To go against that, that's on you and your partner. You try to make it work. You go through the stages. You go through the counseling. You go through the ups and downs. Oh, I can't stand him because he didn't take out the trash. I can't stand her because she talks too much. I don't know. There's so many things to add to the equation, but it's a give and take. Come on now. Let's be realistic about the situation. Not all the times it's going to be 100% Disney ending, happy ending, and everything is going to be hunky-dory. It's not. It's not. It's a give and take type of deal. Sometimes you're going to have to look over the flaws of your partner and see if you want to continue your relationship with them to carry on. Sometimes you get into binds where I have to carry the ball for a few and I'm just going to have to carry it until you get right. And then pass the ball to me and let me carry it the rest of the way. Sometimes it's going to be a give and take like that. Sometimes it's going to be y'all walking parallel together, not necessarily y'all both doing even things, just walking parallel together. The fact that you're there and you're committed to each other should be it. If you're in my line of sight, I shouldn't have no problems. If I see you, you see me, there should be no problems. There should be no question, because my vows, because of what I said, I wanted to marry you, that should be it. That should be it. The questions and things that go through your head is something you're going to have to ask yourself. Why do I have these thoughts in my head? This is not what my partner is telling me. Are you saying because of his actions or because of her actions, I'm thinking this way and this makes me feel this way, so I think this is reality? No. It cannot be reality. It's something you put in your head, same as the expectations before you came into the relationship. It's the same type of deal. You're filling your head with pictures. Stop doing that. Like you said earlier, communication would negate all of that. Having an open dialogue, talking back and forth, understanding where the other person's coming from. Yes, that is key. That is the big key to the whole equation. But in order to get where you are, you have to have the commitment of the other partner. To have that open line of communication, the want, the need for that to move forward, to progress. We live in a microwave society where it's like, oh, I don't feel like dealing with that. Fuck that. I'll get somebody else. It's just like that. I see it on TV. Why can't it be me? Like all these celebrity marriages that are like 3 seconds. here today, gone tomorrow. The housewives, Dom, you can name all the shows for me because I don't know them.
Love and hip hop, Basketball Wives, all that stuff.
All of
and
that.
Another thing to me add one more thing to it too. Is what women are guilty of, especially. Oh, if you don't do it, I'm gonna go find another man who can do it for me. That is a very immature thing to say in a relationship or a marriage. It's very immature to say that. And that opens the door for the man to also look elsewhere also, to find that woman who will not throw that in his face at every given opportunity. We got to understand that men cheat not because there's a disease. It's probably something that little small thing that female said to him that set him off to that other path. There's triggers to everything.
It's triggers. There's triggers to everything. There's a trigger. There's a trigger to depression. There's a trigger to people drinking. There's a trigger to people that get on drugs. It's a trigger. Something triggered that for that to happen. Their response was, "This will make it better."
Yeah. No, and that's actual. And we'll close on those thoughts soon. But you're absolutely right. Triggers are a key. And we, unfortunately, often don't recognize or realize our triggers until we're triggered. And then we don't know our reaction until that triggers. Because, and oftentimes, that's your first time something that happens. It was a comic book I used to read. It was a Batman comic book. And Joker said, we're all just one bad day from snapping.
True.
And we really are. With my relationship, we had a perfect relationship for 14 out of 15 years, a perfect marriage for 8.5 out of 9 years. And then there was a mental health element triggered where it became unhealthy for me to continue to be in a relationship. And we're still good friends to this day, but we knew we couldn't be married because we were all in danger. So there's triggers that is something that our educational system doesn't teach us. Not only as men or women, I feel mental health should be a class. You know what I mean? Like our whole educational system, I would just love to just uproot it, throw it in the trash, and teach people how to live and thrive instead of teaching us how to be minimum wage workers. Because that's all they want us to be. Is they put us in these environments so we can be batteries in the matrix, which is the patriarchy, which is the system, which is white supremacy, which is America, is a system where we're designed, especially if you go to public schools. I don't know if any of you guys went to private school, but I went to public school. And they had me thinking I was Albert Einstein. because I could read. I'm dumb as fuck. I am not bright. Like I literally, my brain goes left, but because I could read and I could communicate when the standards were set so low for everyone else in comparison, they were like, oh, this kid's a genius. And then I was like, no, I'm dumb as fuck. I just can read well and I can articulate and, you know, but you get me a math problem, I'm like, 2 plus 2 equals 72. My brain just doesn't work that way. So it's interesting the tools that we're given. But this has been an intriguing conversation. I could do this all night, but I respect everyone's time. I want everybody to just go around the room, just get a closing word, and of course, give your social media details, where they can find you, and what you got going on. And I'm humbly just grateful that you guys joined me on the first episode of season 2 of After Dark. So, Rose, I'm going to give you your word. Let everybody know what you got going on. Give us a closing word, where they can find you, and tell us about that fantastic podcast. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, y'all, my podcast is called MamyLyfe, and you guys can find me on Instagram, MamyLyfe+3. And my closing word, oh my God, this has been amazing. Like, seriously. It has been an honor. I was like, yay, I'm on his show. So, yeah, so, wow, do I have any closing words? Because, dang, you guys went in deep.
Well, we appreciate your honesty and having a female perspective, because sometimes when we have these relationship conversations, I get a lot of comments. You guys are just bashing the women. No, we love the women. We love the women. We all come from a woman, and I don't know a man of color that will mess your ass up for their mama. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what. Like, we all got a grandma or auntie that we will mess your ass up for that. So, and you know, anybody that's a girl dad, we have daughters that we will mess your ass up. So it's never been us hating women. I think is a situation where we hate the energy that's been taught to women and men, that we just have to stop this miseducation, that we can, you know, we're not fighting each other. We are on the same team. But we to be on the same team, our goals have to align. And I think that's one of the biggest keys. But guys, I'll give you guys the last word, and go ahead and tell the people where they can find you and what you have going on.
Let me go
You want to do it first? Go ahead, bro.
It's your man, Big Dumb, host of Tru Playaz Podcast. You can catch me on Instagram, Instagram.com/Tru Playaz Podcast, TruPlayaz Podcast. Got my co-host Joey G on this podcast with Down at D.E.N, along with my main man Sean up in here. We do it big, you know what I'm saying? We hold no punches. You think this is nothing? This is nothing compared to what we do on Tru Playaz Podcast. It is definitely not nothing. But then we say I'm big confident family. It gets even worse from there. But on the serious tip, you know, I love joining other people's podcasts to give my perspective and also network with a lot of people. We never know who we network in this world that could elevate us to another level, no matter what experiences they may have and things like that. And I'm also offering services to any nurses, any police officers, any firefighters, any essential workers who lost their jobs because they didn't get themselves inoculated. I can help you guys with your 401k and 403bs to be rolled over to a different vehicle, because all that hard work that you placed in, you're still entitled to your retirement benefits. Let's roll over those benefits so we can still have an opportunity to help it grow, and you can save some more money and grow it even more into your next job or into retirement if you choose to retire. I'm willing to offer those services to you. You can contact me once again on my Gmail, trueplayazpodcast@gmail.com. And ask all the other hosts that if you know anybody who has those situations, definitely let me know and contact me, and I can definitely help them out and lead them to the right direction and things like that. So on that note, before I let you go, stay tuned to my Women's Entrepreneurship series. I'm excited to get this started. I can't wait to get it started. The reason why I held back because I want to be able to promote it properly for the beautiful woman that's going to join the Tru Playaz Podcast on the women's entrepreneurship. They need to be celebrated just as much as male entrepreneurs also need to be celebrated. We need to celebrate them more. You know what I'm saying? Because I love my women. You know, I'm a one-woman man, but I love all women. I need to put them on a pedestal that they deserve to be on. Not that I love hip-hop or basketball bullshit. Well, I'm on a real level shit. And I just landed my goddamn plane.
Love it. Joey G, close us out, brother.
What's going on? This is your man, Joey G, host of Bear Convo and Family. It's been a pleasure being down in the den. I really enjoyed the conversation with the people. You have valid points. You gave me points to think about and points of perspective that may have been overlooked in conversation. So I appreciate that. I was taking notes. I was taking notes. I was literally taking notes as we were having the conversation because these are key points. What you guys were talking about, I had to sit there and write these key points down because I wanted to hone in exactly on my points. These are things that I've felt before, but after hearing you guys talk and everything like that, I was like, yeah, these are the key points I need to bring into this conversation. And I was glad to be able to join and be a part of that. As far as reaching out and wanting to be a part of my social media and everything like that, Bear Family and Convo. You can see me on Tru Playaz Podcast. You can see me on Down in the Den. I'll be back. I'll be back, and I'll be around. So you can check me out anywhere there. On Facebook, you'll see me up there. Look for Latin Dragon. If anybody, Latin Dragon 1977, if you're playing PlayStation, Xbox or anything like that, I'm out there. I'm gaming also.
Trying to get in this Twitch, man. I'm trying to figure out. Apparently, I saw what the money was leaked. I said, I'm in the wrong platform. I need to go and get on this Twitch. I'm trying to.
It's a little combination of what you're doing now, just a little bit with the controller in your hand. We can get back to that one. But the other thing I have going on is the Gomez Legato. You can check that out on XD. We have a store for jewelry, T-shirts, and various things that are coming. Ornaments for Christmas, more ethnic-based because that's lacking in the market right now, and that's what we're pushing for Christmas this year. Check it out when you get a chance. And till next time, I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, Queens, Kings, Cam, who's not here, check him out on the Cameron Journal podcast. It's available everywhere that podcasts are heard. It's an amazing show. Thank him for showing up. We know he had to teach a class, so thank him for carving. Thank Rose. Check out the MamyLyfe +3 podcast for all the mothers, for all the fathers. It's family friendly. She's cool. She's dope. She's amazing. Thank you. My man Dom and my man Joey G. Thank you, Tru Playaz Podcast. Check out everything Joey G has going on. Check out everything Dom. Get those products that they're purchasing if you know anyone that needs those services. Also, we have Down in the Den merch available. Links in the bio. We got shirts. We got hoodies. We got the Down in the Den After Dark with the sexy lips on it, like my sexy lips. So we got that. We got draws. We got everything for real. As my trademark say, everything's for sale. So go out there and get yourself some products. And as always, guys, it's been season 2. It's been a blast, man. I think this has been the best episode. Shout out to my other co-hosts from the other episodes. I love you guys, but this has been the best episode. So all of these people, I hopefully will accept my humble invite to return because I don't think we are done with some of these conversations. And hopefully I can, whenever they need me, I'm there. That's what the whole denmate community is about. I always say, man, anybody that has passion, purpose, and a plan, I rock with you. And all 3 of you, including Cameron, all 4 of you, have that in spades. And that's what I look for. That's what I love. So thank you guys again for joining us. This has been episode 1, season 2, Down in the Den After Dark. We're unfiltered. We're unrated. you get the real raw Sean. My voice don't even sound the same. Normally I'm like, but no, you getting the raw Sean. So After Dark, thank you guys again for joining me. This has been another stellar episode, and as always, deuces. So like, comment, subscribe. The show's starting right now. Let's go. Like, comment, subscribe. The show's starting right now.